I'm a big fan of the space sim genre, so I'm really excited about it.
Everything's been
Excited to see any type of demonstration of the massive ship battles that you guys have been talking up for the past week or so leading up to this event.
I'm looking forward to the battles. One, I want to see the changes with the last post before E3. I'm curious about what has changed and what not, and just get a couple of questions asked for the community.
Interested in seeing how the ship battles are going, but also into seeing how the logistics side is going for the various skills and builds and stuff like that way.
So hopefully you've met everybody. If you haven't, just to do a reintroduction, thank you very much, Joe there, Joe Grubb, who's been the driver for the last 3 days. He's done an awesome job. Thank you, Joe.
Also one of our content designers.
Steve Garvin is it lead designer? Yeah. Lead designer on Jumpgate Evolution. I think everybody knows Scott Brown, Scorch Brown, standing over in the corner. He's had a flu all week, so I feel sorry for Scott. Jason Bucher is a technical director on the project, and standing to my left, Lance Robertson, who's executive producer, and Mark Davis, content director. Okay. Who wants to start?
I'll start. I represent the European community on Codemasters.
Okay.
I would like to request actually more of a bitch and a beg. Bitch that we feel like we're not getting the support from the project. The person that had to post the Lance's announcement happened to be a member of the American community rather than a NetDevil or a Gazillion representative, and it kind of looks bad to them. So we're kind of begging you guys to, throw us a bone once in a while.
Well, I mean, judging where I come from, I have a lot of sympathy for you. All I can really say is that we're working with Codemasters right now, and we're hopeful that situation is not going to continue, and we're aware of it. So, yeah. It's definitely not an attempt to screw over anyone in Europe, because I'm a big fan of Europe.
And so as we come out with more and more information, we're going to make sure that it's read properly.
Please release it simultaneously or something that shows that you guys are actually acknowledge it there.
Absolutely. Yeah,
thank you.
Questions? In case I never get another one. In case I never get another one. Will you think about, consider, or possibly, ponder guild-owned battle stations? If you are going to ponder or consider it, what about the ability to destroy your opponent's guild-owned battle station? I know you have the nation versus nation one. I'm talking about your own, because every guild wants to feel like they have their own entity and their own ability to reward themselves.
Should we answer the first bit first?
Yeah.
Well, guilds are a huge part of this game. I'll say that. Also, they're going to play a massive part in the sector capture section of our game. But we're not exactly talking about it. So I'm going to dodge that question for the moment. But you'll learn about what we're doing with it very, very soon. So just take that for what it's worth. Guilds are going to be key there, so they're going to play a huge part in it.
You were on War.
Yep.
And you know that they had an amazing guild reward system. Are you planning on implementing any type of guild reward system for Jumpgate?
I can't really answer that specifically, but again, the guilds are going to be very compelling in terms of the way they progress. Let me just put it that way.
Last question, cargo loss.
Cargo loss on death?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
You guys mentioned collision damage, and I noticed that in the demo that you're flying into big space station and everything. You're gonna have a lot more of that, like asteroid fields, having to navigate and pilot better, like in cramped quarters and stuff like that.
Yeah, you see Joe kind of weaving through certain parts of it and colliding with those and taking shield damage, and you can get destroyed by that too. Yes.
Good. Voice support?
Absolutely.
Great. Okay.
Still in there, yeah. Voice chat is in there.
Okay.
Yeah. We're partnered with those.
Voice support.
And then another question, if no one else has one. As far as your ship stats versus the skill of the player, how much does each play into who's going to win in the fight? Kind of.
Well, it is about the skill, but that's a fine balance point that we're working on, and that'll be ongoing all through our testing as well. But just know this, if I'm a 50, let's say, and you're a 10, you can still do damage to me, but I'm going to take you down, unless I'm just absolutely horrible as a pilot. But I won't have gotten that far if I'm that terrible of a pilot.
This is why
so just kind of take that for what it's worth.
I think we discussed this before, and one of the things I was saying was that means that, if you're a 10 and they're a 50, then you need 5 or 4 of your level 10 buddies to go up against the 50, right? So teamwork's important.
I wouldn't take that ratio verbatim, but yes, that's pretty much true.
It might not be 5, it might be...
And I'll put it another way. If I'm a 50 and I've got a 10 with me and we run up against another 50, we're going to kill it. So there's value. We want to bring lower level players into the game and welcome them in, and guilds will be a part of that too.
Because cannon fodder is always nice.
Well, no, they can actually accomplish things. I mean, if I get my heavy guys, the big ticket, high level guys over here doing this thing, sucking up the enemy's fighters, and there's objectives to be done that they might be able to do some damage for me. So there's value.
You saw in the demo sector the sort of objective-based nature of it. The objective-based nature of it, and that objective-based nature is intentional. It's going to be throughout the entire game. So it's not just kill X to achieve a goal. Now that will happen, but we also have that intentionally so that you can have exactly what Lance talked about. I have a 10 and a 50. I need to accomplish something. The 50 deals with the fight, and the 10 can solve it. Or the 10 drags the 50s away, and the 50... There's strategy here, right? It's not just not a bucket of shooting. There's going to be things you have to think about.
To ask is some of the objectives level based where they can only be achieved by the higher leveled person, or is it equally easy on some of the objectives for either side to get? So maybe the 50 is better taking care of the dogfight and freeing up forces to then go above the lower levels to then accomplish the missions that anybody could do, but it's a better use of resources than either from a guild point or a nation point, if you're looking at it that way.
Yeah, if I got where you're going with that, yes. I mean, that's true. There's always intended to have value for those lower level players. They're going to get owned when they get out there in PvP space, but if you play them properly and bring them with you and put them on the right things, they do provide value.
The ultimate goal of that stuff is to not have an optimal strategy, right? We don't want to end up with, tank, DPS, healer. We don't want that kind of strategy. We want varying strategies that players come up with. So virtually everything you talked about theoretically could work. I imagine that there will be certain sort of encounters that will be strategic. People will figure out optimal strategies for them, maybe. But then there'll be counter strategies, and because it's player versus player, it's always varying. You never know what the other guy's going to do. You don't know how many are going to be there. They'll be augmented by AI, but players will always be better, so that means that every encounter is different. Even in, again, sandbox space where we've spent a lot of time fighting, you don't know what you're going to get any given time.
So you have to think about combat as you have to sort of break the mindset of what if 110's fighting one whatever, right? Because this is about hundreds and hundreds of players and potentially also hundreds and hundreds of AI all in the same area in a massive battle, right? And nothing is level based, right? So your question originally was, can a low level player do these things, right? Nothing is level based. Like, it's not like you must be level 25 to blow up this gas tower or something like that. It doesn't work like that. And so, like, some examples would be, let's say you've got a heavy ship and it's firing torpedoes to take down one of the cap ships, right? So low-level players would be a perfect thing to get in there and just hunt torpedoes, right? They could, like, watch for them to get fired and take them down and shoot them out of the sky, right? Like, or low-level players could help escort AI that's flying through. So maybe there's some transports that you got to get through, and each time transports get through, it gets closer and closer to getting an objective done, right? So there's a lot of different things you can do that isn't necessarily even PvP. It just, there happens to be PvP going on at the same time. So the level is really more just a representation of kind of what choices you have available, as opposed to sort of necessarily how awesomely powerful you are, if that makes sense.